interesting after lunchtime slot, so we have to keep you guys awake, right? So it is a workshop. You will be asked to get up and do things. Nothing too embarrassing, but some stuff that might be a little bit complex. And that's what we're talking about today, understanding complexity, okay? So, and obviously we'll tie it back into Agile, but let's explore this topic of complexity. First of all, just wanted to introduce this wonderful person over here is Stephanie Tong. She is Design Thinking and Agile Capability Lead at SMS Management and Technology. Not only that, she's an awesome person, mother of a very, very cute child. What else do you do? A lot of things. Well, tell us about your Agile moments.
So my worst Agile moment is actually just happened recently. So we're distributed, I'm in a Scrum project at the moment, and I've distributed team in Manila, Melbourne, Sydney, and Hong Kong as well. So we had our daily stand-up, and it involved using Skype on the phone. So we always go around passing phone as a mic, so you talk to the phone while in our stand-up meeting. So after 10 minutes, where everyone has finished from the Hong Kong side, we were actually on mute. So that is a time that I really hate distributed teams. We have to do it all over again for 10 minutes. So hate distributed teams, but we have to make it work sometimes. My best Agile moment is actually when I first got in touch with Agile, which is a project back in Australia, Melbourne, where I came from. So we were doing this banking app called Go Money, and we were trying to develop a feature called Pay Anyone. And within Pay Anyone, you can name your accounts and that sort of thing. And then I'm the only Chinese person on the team. So, and at that time, the bank was trying to get out Asia and stuff. So it's like, oh, why can't we type Chinese when you want to rename your bank account? So I tried that one, tested with the developer, yes. Talked to the product owner, and yep, get it in. But I found out that once you unlock that big 5 thing on the renaming your text account, you can also insert emoji to your bank account. So we secretly released the app. I don't think anyone will name their bank accounts using emoji, but that's my secret feature that has been in the banking app from now on.
Okay.
So I was pretty happy.
So, okay.
Daryl.
Yes.
I should introduce you as well because you introduced me
was.
so well. So I met Daryl 2 years ago in Hong Kong.
We can swap rooms soon. Sorry,
Where he
keep
came
going,
from
keep
Melbourne
going.
as well. So I met Daryl, I fully respect him. We met in a very simple project to become complicated and complex, and then chaos in the end. But I met him.
You want to move?
Can you give us 2 minutes, and then we'll swap over?
Continue that way.
And yes, that's how I met Daryl, and I fully respect him because he's such a good friend of mine.
I don't know why.
What's your worst Agile moment?
Worst Agile moments, I think we've all sort of been there. The first Scrum team I was on, we were running hour-long, half-hour-long daily stand-up for way too long. So it was like a worst Scrum year almost. Best Agile moment, Lisa Adkins told me I was cool, but I thought she was talking about me, but she said my socks were cool. But that's still pretty good, she told to me. So, and if you don't know, she wrote the Coaching Agile Teams book, which is highly recommended if you guys haven't read it yet. Great book, yeah. Okay, so I think we might, I don't know if Kiro wanted to swap it. Let's talk about complexity a little bit, right? What we wanted to do was talk about, well, what do we mean by complexity? Does anybody want to throw out an example of what complexity might mean to them? What's complex?
Not simple.
Something not simple. Okay, that's good.
Unorganized.
Something unorganized. Okay.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
1,000 lines of code.
Sorry, what was that one?
1,000 lines of code.
1,000.
Lines of code.
Oh, lines of code.
Lines.
Only 1,000. That's complex. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Any other suggestions? Any other thoughts?
Unpredictability.
Unpredictable. Yeah.
Unknown. Lots of unknown.
Lots of unknowns. Okay.
Dependencies.
Dependencies. Okay.
Constantly changing.
Okay.
Living in space.
Lots of people talking at the same time? Yep. No, I'm kidding. Liminal space, and what was
Level of effort.
level of effort? Okay. So even the term complex is
Very complicated.
a little, well, is
What
complicated
does
or
your
complex?
dictionary say?
I don't know, I didn't
What's
put
the
a dictionary definition there. But all of this can be complex, right? We're not trying to tell you right or wrong today, but things that need to be organized, okay? Things that kind of just emerge, things that we try and simplify maybe a few lines of code, and things that disasters happen and we just need to act, okay? So what we're going to go through today is explore using a model. So there is a complexity science discipline out there. Is anybody aware of complexity science? Ooh, 3 people. You better get up here and do this instead. So we're just going to explore this through a bit of an exercise, a bit of a workshop, okay? We're just going to use one of the more common frameworks out there. It's not to say that it's the only way to think about complexity, but it's a nice, easy one to get into, and something that the Agile community is quite fond of. So shall we do this?
Yeah.
Shall we just do it in here? There's a video as well, and then we have to move it.
Okay, so we do it all in here.
Let's do it.
Okay.
There are still 3 chairs.
Right, so let's do something simple first. So everyone stand up to their feet. We're gonna play 4 games later on, okay? So I'll give you some sufficiently clear instructions for your game. Sufficiently clear. I'll say it once or twice, but I will not give you further instructions, okay? Okay, so here we start. So we need some room to move within this room. So we'll see how this works. So now you have to pick up your chairs. Make some space for yourself. Okay, so now we're gonna do something.
We're going to get them to...
That's okay.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So among this room, I want you guys to split into 4 groups. 4 groups. Anyway, any way that you want in 4 groups. Okay. So within your group, line yourselves in the order of height.
Within your group?
Within your group.
I have to go to the back.
Are we done?
Sorry, no, we done?
Are we done?
Are you the...
I'm checking, I'm testing you guys now. I'm just seeing. Ooh,
Are you?
Right, okay.
Wow, you guys are very
That's
like.
alright.
Yeah.
So that's
Pretty
obvious.
well.
Oh, yeah.
So that should be an obvious
Obvious,
exercise, okay? Just marking yourself into 4 groups, lining up from the shortest to the high, to the tallest. Okay, so, okay, now we go back into a reflective mode. You can stand over here if you want. So, how quick was that exercise for you guys? A very simple instructions into 4
Very
groups.
quick.
Very quick. Why is it so quick?
So obvious.
How is that obvious for you?
We can see it.
You can see it.
The instruction is here.
And the instructors are pretty and handsome.
It's so hot.
So you can see it, you can compare it as well. And then line them in order.
The words used to for the instruction actually are we all have the same concept of it.
So you have the
Everybody
same
like the
concept.
height is like a concept that we all agree on.
So there's supposed to be a brain, okay? Concept. Good. So you all agree height is. I didn't actually say your body height, but okay.
Okay, that's something.
Okay. So you have the same height. You can see it with your own eyes. It's very physical and it's comparable. Okay. Cool. Let's go on to the next.
Oh, should we say what it is? Or just do it first and then tell them what it is?
Up to you.
Let's do the
You can
second one.
do-
Let's see.
you
Let's
can
do the
say
second
it
one.
first.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay.
So-
No, I forgot what it was. No, I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Which one?
The second exercise.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do it now.
I know roughly what it is, but I don't want to get it wrong.
Okay. So
Wanna be
we'll go
clear.
to the next slide.
Okay.
Have a
Nothing.
Yes. So we got a little bit complicated exercise now. So now split into another different set of 4 groups again, and you have to organize yourself by month, year, and month date.
So birthday.
Year and month. Birthday, year, and month.
Okay, good.
Organize
But
yourself by birthday,
Physically,
year,
it's H.
and month.
year and month.
Yeah.
Steph, maybe we were too transparent in this exercise. Now let's we're sorry, guys. We're sorry. You can direct us hate mail and hate tweets later. That's fine.
Is anyone's birthday today in this group?
No?
You want to celebrate your birthday at an Agile conference. Okay, so you got your month, birthday year, and birthday month. Okay. So how is that different from the previous exercise? More details. You need more communication. More. So when you communicate, what do you talk about?
More conditions.
More conditions. So more conditions together, you have to talk about it. Or you have to compare. So when you speak, what were the questions that you ask each other?
You just
information reading.
We didn't ask. We clarified the requirements.
Okay.
You just
We reduced it to obvious.
And then execute it.
Just like racist. What? You're over there. Why are you here? Okay. So what else? What else? When you talk to each other, when you line up, who are the last few ones to fit in? Who are the last ones that fit in? How come you're the last one to go in? What happened to you?
Well, I was trying to think whether we need to reform the group or just be seen in the current group or something. I'm a little bit confused.
So you start with year.
I find that there was less pleasantries. It was just like, oh, here. It was just like, oh, year 86, and that's about it.
Just numbers.
Yeah, just numbers.
Okay. So you pick one data point and you start from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is year. Okay. And then you go on. So who is the first one in the group that like, I'm gonna start this thing and
Yeah,
people
yeah,
just
yeah.
revolve around me. Type person. Who was the first person that started in the group?
Yeah, just
Just the two of you.
Yeah.
And you ended up with okay.
I think
How about for you guys?
it emerged in subgroups. So there was few places where people start to sort.
It's a quick sort
Yeah.
out.
Younger and older.
We have a bubble sort.
So there was not one person who started.
There's no one person that started
It
it.
started simultaneously in a few places.
Emergent systems.
So you start with a few places and somehow you form a line in the end. Okay? So remember, I try to capture your key points that you guys have described, and it'll help you for the 4 basic words that Daryl is going to explain later on. Okay? So we've gone through obvious, we've gone through complicated. Okay, we'll get a little bit harder, okay? So we go to the third one now. So the third one, sorry I didn't get our random flip chart here. The third one is complex. So this one is getting a little bit hard. You need to form yourself in a big circle first.
Okay, we just
Well,
join up.
This is wait, hold on. Don't act yet. Don't act yet. And you have to be silent through all of it, right? Which means you can use the outside space. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to set. What else do we want
So
to do?
I'll give you the instruction
But don't
before
act
you
yet.
go out. Okay? Listen. Okay. So the third one is complex. So it's a triangle. It's an impossible triangle, and we'll see if we can make it possible. So later on, when you go outside, don't talk to anyone, but mark your 2 targets within the same room. Okay, this is not speed dating, okay? Just mark 2 targets.
We're now
Select.
learning how old everybody is. So.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
So mark 2 person from the room, okay? And when we go outside, you have to be in a constant motion, okay? You're gonna restrict yourself in the dining area. And you have to maintain the same distance with these 2 person that you have targeted. Okay?
Please
Yes.
be careful. Be safe. No running. No
Like
sharp
walk
objects.
gracefully, okay?
Yeah. Does it all make sense? So no talking.
Just to clarify, you maintain a distance with your 2 targets.
With the 2
With 2 targets.
Yes.
But if the 2 targets go in different places,
You have to pull yourself apart to maintain the 2 distance, the same
Where's the
distance.
triangle?
So I
like a triangle.
Okay? No talking.
An equilateral triangle.
Okay? Equal distance. Remember your high school math?
Congruence triangle.
Congruent triangle. Yes. It can be isosceles in one point in time.
Once
Yeah.
the door opens, there's no talking, is there?
No talking. Choose your 2 targets. Cool.
I keep moving.
And keep moving. You keep moving.
Gracefully.
So how did you feel when you try to track your 2 targets just now?
I couldn't read it.
You're holding. You don't allow them to move.
Somebody was trying to get hold on me.
So you have a little mini triangle instead of a big one.
I had a huge one, a small one. But they were moving, following their own targets. I was dragging them.
Someone try to over control someone. How about anyone else?
Attentive.
You're attentive. Attentive to.
Following 2 targets.
So your eyes are on those 2 targets.
I was trying until the moment they split to 2 different opposite sides.
So
And I'm trying to do 3 things. One is agile. You gotta keep moving.
okay.
The second one is sometimes quite impossible, so I keep possibility. It can be done. I think it can be done.
How did you test your possibilities?
Keep on, trying to, you said the congruent triangle. It can be done. I noticed some people just stand on the wall, probably. I don't know why. Probably they are under already. So I keep on thinking this is possible. And the third one is the tenacity. I think let's stick to it.
So you have to keep trying.
Yeah.
For the people who have stopped, like I'm gonna stick. How come you chose to stop?
My target stopped.
Yeah.
Your target stopped. Okay. So So you stop, and that's the perfect distance between the two.
And a train movement will
did
replace
now.
train
Yeah.
movement.
It's just steady state.
It could be strategic as well, just stand very far from everybody. That way, for a small movement requires you to be very small.
Right. So you try to be far away from the target.
Yeah.
From this one.
From
Right.
Well, I was
But-
also next to the cookies section side. Yeah.
So you try. How can you mark the two targets at once?
You just go far away, and then the distance.
But if they move
Yeah.
close together, then you need to.
I had to move closer when they move closer together.
Yeah.
So I stay far away from them as well.
Cool. So let me try to see. I don't know if it will work, but I want to try to see who has been the most targeted. So can you stand
Of course.
close to your target?
Wow.
Like right
So-
now in the room. So we go back to our big circle. So this is not a group exercise anymore. You're on your own now, okay? And then we go to our last exercise for the day. Click, click. So we go into chaos. Don't be alarmed. Okay, stop now. Okay, so later on I'll give you instructions. In the real world, someone gives you instructions as well, right? So I give you instructions and simply you just have to follow while moving as well. Just what you did just now. Just keep moving within this group, okay? So of course, as the game goes, it will get a little bit harder, okay? So I'm gonna give you two instructions, very easy. When I say go, you go. And when you say stop, when I say stop, you stop. Very easy, okay? Okay, start, go. Just keep moving around. Stop. Go. Stop. Go. Okay, you got it. You got it. Okay. So, yeah, you're graduated now. So I'm going to give you more instructions. Okay? So when I clap, you clap. Okay? While walking. Use your hands to clap while walking. Stop. I said stop. Clap. Go. Go. Clap. You can clap and walk at the same time. Okay? Stop. Go. Okay, I'm gonna give you one more instruction. Keep walking, and the instruction is jump. When I say jump, you jump. You jolt a little if you want. Okay? Clap. Okay, stop. Jump. Go. Stop. Clap. Jump. Go. Okay, gets too easy now, okay? Gonna make sound a little bit more complicated now, okay? So when I say go, it means stop. Okay? When I stop, it means go. I'm a very fickle person. I change my mind all the time. So when I mean go, it means stop. When I say stop, it means go. Okay? So stop. So clap. So stop. And then go. And jump. Very good. Keep stopping.
Clap. Why'd you listen to me?
Alright, I'm gonna add one more instruction to you. So when I say tap, tap your leg. Okay? Tap your leg like. Okay? Tap your leg. Just use the hands, tap your leg. And stop and tap your leg and jump.
Wow,
So
I like how you
keep
can
going
text as well.
and jump and clap at the same time. At the same time. Okay, so going. Stop. Tap your leg and jump at the same time. Okay? So stop moving in the same direction, guys. Say yay.
Yay!
That wasn't an instruction. Stop. Just stop. You said your first call. Yes. Okay? So the last one, okay? Last few seconds of it. So keep going as fast as you can. And jump. Plus tap your leg and then start stopping.
Nonsense behind you.
Right, okay. Alright, let's go back into one big circle and stop.
Stop.
Go back to your circle. Okay, so what happened there? Confusing. Very
It's pretty
confusing.
organized.
Why is it confusing? I thought my instructions are really clear. It's not even in a document. It's just a few words.
You just keep changing.
I only changed one of my thing from stop to go to stop.
It's
And
because
you
you
keep
just change
adding.
one. If you change everything, it's easier.
Really? Do you want to try? Keep changing.
Negative.
It's too much to remember, I think.
Too much. These are like kindergarten interviews nowadays. They do
You
these to
are
kids.
reinterpreting the word. So it's like what China is doing right now.
So I'm rebaselining myself. So was that that? Oh, reinterpretation. New interpretation.
Maybe you fall in a routine, like you're just going, so you don't react when you
So like you're used to what you were doing before and suddenly something changes and it makes it harder.
Yeah. And some people are doing it the wrong way. So I follow other people doing things the wrong way.
So you're trying to follow other people?
Who are doing things the wrong way. And I just follow.
So how come you guys ended up in like a walking in the same motion?
It was easier.
It's
You
easier.
kind of found a pattern, just continue.
You find a pattern.
And because of the limitation of the room. It's no that made us.
You want to be calm when no clashes.
No one is swim against current.
You don't want to be against the current.
Some people were against that current.
They were rebels.
Rebels.
Actually, all the people who was there, and we have like 3 meters here that I worked for the whole exercise. I was alone there, and I was completely fine by myself. It's just like everybody was, I don't know, trying to be on the side and fine. So
So how do you feel on that lonely island?
I was so perfect.
Because you're out of the system already.
No one bothered me. So because I tried to go in, and like everybody is pushing everybody. It's just like, why doing that?
Well, not my experience.
So you feel like you're pushed out from the system.
But if you try to go straight, that's impossible in that cow, right?
Well, if you go in a circle, you would in continuous motion.
We said you have to go straight.
No, for sure. But we say that you have to go anywhere. Nobody. So, either way.
Okay, Daryl. Can
Yes.
you summarize that in your awesome picture?
Oh, yeah, I can. Okay, now how about we all move the chairs back and sit back down on them. So, this isn't just about making you do embarrassing things. There is actually a bit of a framework behind this, okay? Here it is. This is called the Cynefin framework. It's done by a bunch of pretty smart guys called Cognitive Edge. Dave Snowden is the lead scientist behind it, right? And what we've taken, it's their way of mapping out complexity, different types of complexity. And we actually, instead of talking to you and throwing slides at you, we thought, hey, let's try and understand and feel it, okay? So they have different domains, and they also have something in the center which they call absolute disorder, which is you just have no idea where you are. We didn't do my exercise for that, unfortunately. So let's talk about it. So in the obvious domain, right, we have things that, like we said, it was easy. There was not much cognitive, effort you had to go. You could organize yourselves by height. You had the same understanding of heights. Simple instructions. Okay. So there's a bunch of problems which we term they're obvious. Okay. Second, a little bit more complicated. So when you guys are talking about the birthday months and years, there was a bit more discussion. Okay. You had to talk it out a bit more, right? But you were able to sort it out in the end, although you needed to discuss a little bit amongst yourselves, okay? In that sort of domain, we say that, you put some experts together, they can solve a problem, okay? And that's complicated, okay? In the complex domain, you're given some very simple rules to follow, and then you see what happens, right? Okay? So this is the one where you're moving around, with the 2 targets and keep moving, okay? And then, you got to a point where I think most people just stopped, okay? If you have a look at some other complex systems, they're perpetual, they keep going, okay? But for instance, for that one, you just happen to settle on something. An interesting point that somebody raised there is that you picked the people that were easiest to track. You organized, or a few of you organized yourselves around, I guess, what we call attractors in complexity science, things that make it easier in the system to achieve a goal. Your goal was to try and track people. So you organized yourselves around the tallest people in the group. And then lastly, you have a chaotic domain, okay? Where you there's no real regular flow of information, meaning is distorted, okay? Everybody has their own, way of interpreting. You had me as some people will call it a disruptive force. They're yelling in an instruction. Some of you followed it, some of you didn't, okay? So we have these, that would be a chaotic domain where sometimes you just have to act and respond, right? So this is, we try and say these are 4 different types of complexity, okay? So the obvious domain, complicated, complex, chaotic. The 5th domain is disorder, where you don't know where you are. And somebody else also brought up that sometimes you actually pushed complicated problems into the obvious domain. I think that was with maybe the height one. And then even in the complex one, in the chaotic one, you were able to push it into sort of, say, the complicated one. You heard a few instructions and, oh yeah, clap, that makes sense. Okay, then I just followed. Actually, that probably would have been obvious. So you can switch between the domains quite quickly, okay? But knowing where you are is the interesting bit, which domain you're in. Knowing that's the interesting part. So there's a really good paper on that in the Harvard Business Review, Leaders, the Framework for Decision Making. It's pretty simple. A lot of the complexity science stuff can be a little bit difficult to digest in the beginning, but this is a really interesting one. Now, complexity is a really broad topic. Like I said before, we're just giving you one framework, which is kind of like really nice and easy to understand, and probably more on the social complexity side. You have things like computational complexity. You can argue that the stuff that artificial intelligence and all the way going back to Turing and all that sort of thing is also exploring the realms of complexity. Okay, stuff like evolution as well. This happens in the real world too in biology. That's also part of this discipline of complexity. So I think if you ask anybody, they find it really hard to actually explain to you what complexity is about. Basically, it's a whole bunch of, anything around the study of a whole bunch of interacting objects, people, actors, and where outcomes are emergent can really fall under this category of complexity, okay? So how does this link to Agile then, right? So we've got two things up here. Is anyone not familiar with the Agile Manifesto? No? Okay, good. Oh, you up? Oh, okay, so just to link it back, I think the key things in Agile is that why is this complexity stuff linked to Agile? Agile is supposed to be about uncovering things and always discovering, okay? And Agile is a way for us to explore complexity. It's a mindset for us to undertake these obvious and chaotic kind of domains, right? Even Scrum itself says in the actual description it is a framework for addressing complex adaptive problems, okay? And when you think about it, really simple rules for solving complex problems. Scrum, what do you have? You have sprints. At the start of each sprint, you do planning. At the end, you do a review, retrospective, You have 3 key roles, you have a couple of key artifacts, okay? And then within it, you just go. You go and do, and whatever the outcomes are, the group will come out with it. So this is the reason why Scrum works isn't because somebody thought of it and said, oh, it might be nice to have a product owner here and a Scrum Master here. It's actually based upon this, complexity science sort of stuff, right? It's about how do we organize to solve complex problems. And how does this happen in real life? Okay, you guys have seen birds flocking. Okay, so I've never seen a bunch of birds stand still or hold each other, but it's a good thing you guys aren't birds then, right? But do you think is there a project manager in this group somewhere? A project manager bird? So you fly here, you fly there.
The tallest guys.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The tallest guys when we were disorganized. The triangle exercise, the tallest guys.
The tallest guys? Maybe they'd be more of attractors. I don't think they told everybody, hey, look at me. But people just were naturally attracted to them because it was easy for them to make their way through this set of rules. So with the birds, actually there's 3 simple rules that they follow here. One is separation. They have to maintain a certain distance from each other. The second one is alignment. They're all heading in a similar direction to their neighbors. And the third one is about cohesion, so they're heading at a similar speed as well. Okay? Simple rules, and you get complex patterns like this that just seem to happen like magic, okay? And that's what Scrum is trying to borrow from. And understanding complexity and understanding that when we're trying to solve complex problems, we still need to give simple rules for people to self-organize. Right? We can't just drop people in a room and say, oh yeah, walk around in a circle and keep moving. And then you may run into some issues. That one's actually probably a little bit simple, but you may run into some issues there. You go into an organization and drop a whole bunch of people in and say, I trust you to do this project. I'll see you in 6 months' time. Okay. It's not that. It's nice. It's a nice display of trust, right? But actually, you're not setting up the right conditions for success. So that's what understanding complexity can help us with. Okay. So what's the bigger picture? So it's a nice model, it's a nice framework to know when things are obvious and when solutions can be, you can give simple rules, okay? It's nice to know when you're in a complex world and when you have some more, emergent outcomes, you can use something like Scrum to solve. I mean, Steph alluded to a project that we've been working on previously in a prior life, and the reason why that project went so south is that they tried to apply obvious rules to a very complex situation. Lots of different parties, lots of different technologies, lots of unknown customer requirements, okay? And we used a very obvious framework, I'm not going to say which one it is, to try and manage that situation when we probably should have used something a little bit more suited to a complex domain. So understanding complexity can help us to act. So here within the Agile world, about building better software, building better teams, but complexity is something that can expand to, like I said, other areas, sociology, biology, okay? It's something that helps us make better sense of the world.
Maybe I give an example as well. So one of the projects, we're in our last sprint of the project now. So it's kind of simple, but we're trying to implement a CRM into a client, and of course the complexity is where we need to integrate and migrate all that data into the system. Sounds a pretty typical project. So, but we always know that the complexity lies with integrating and migration of data. So how do we know that's a problematic area, so how we deal with that is that so we start off with inception phase, and at the boundary we kind of know what we want to do, and then we set up our MVP as per our normal annual projects, but we have set up what we call the MVP hypothesis. So we have listed out 10 things that will, if these 10 things go wrong, it will highly likely go wrong and will derail the whole project. So as a team, we highlighted those 10 things, and one of the things is integration, because we have no idea how the system looks like. I just know we need to integrate. So what we have chosen is, we only chose a thin layer to prove that integration, yeah, we got it. So we prove a little thin layer. We're not integrating the whole thing yet. Not all the APIs are built. We only choose a little thin layer, just simply integrating a contact from their system, eventually through all these intermediary systems in between, it will arrive at our CRM system. So we choose a very thin layer to try to prove that by sprint 2, and that's how we attack where we already know is a complicated problem. So this is an example of like how we understand, okay, this is a really complicated problem, let's focus on it, but not panic about it, but it helps us to act accordingly. When we know we have a plan that we need to prove this, for the rest of the APIs, it will follow, like what you guys do in the root, it will follow the same pattern, right? So that helps us to think about how do we deal with the whole complex situation in our project. And on the other hand, we thought something was really obvious. So the product that we were using is Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So of course it will talk to your own products, right? Outlook and everything. So integration, no problem. It's just switching on a button. We didn't even think about it too much because we just one switch and the emails will talk to the CRM. We thought. We thought. So it was very obvious problem. We didn't need to think too much about it. Okay, and the feature is ready. And we're ready to switch on the button for Outlook to sync up with CRM. And at the moment, oh, how come nothing goes through? What happened? And then we go into this whole diagnostics process, and it becomes complicated, and it becomes complex. And ended up, we found out, is actually because they work in Citrix server, and the Citrix server is incompatible with CRM. So that's how example of something obvious become complex. They will have to upgrade the whole Citrix in order to integrate with the product that we're trying to build. So that's why problems always move between these four things, but that's why we're humans. We spot where are they and then act accordingly. Yep. But it helps us to process and how to solve the problem.
Definitely. So I think that's a really good example of how, okay, so if you're still learning about practicing Scrum, obviously keep practicing, learn about it, maybe keep this in mind. But for those that have been practicing for a little while already, what you can use that to do, manage your, look at the overall risks. Okay, you're shifting up a level and saying, we're going to use Scrum to try safe to fail experiments and try and move as much work as we can over to this area or this area. Make it really obvious, make it complicated, right? And this is where really high functioning Scrum teams and organizations can make use of complexity to help them not just, deliver working software at the end of a sprint, which is still great, right? It's about helping them manage their risks, okay? Helping them, have a bit broader focus instead of just going in one direction. Let's try a few experiments and see which ones move here quickest. And then once we're there, let's capitalize and move it into something that's a bit more repeatable and get it out to market. Right? So that's a good example, I think, of the one that you shared. So look, very, very brief introduction to complexity. There's a lot of reading out there. And I think this is, we're not experts in this either, but we've definitely seen how this can help us in our practice. So I think it's a great topic to explore, and like we said, complexity, understanding different types of complexity, why things are complex as well, and how complex they are, and how to act in those areas. Okay, no matter whether we're product managers or scrum masters or developers, or even if we're working on more social focused challenges, I think with the different type of problems that we're running into day to day, understanding complexity can really help us work towards better outcomes, which is what Agile is all about, right? So I think that's about it for our talk. Any questions?
A lot about understanding the complexity level and everything. Is there any tricks that you guys have, like in terms of when you're setting up your project, understanding the complexity? If you have a super complex project in front of you, you plan on driving it on Scrum, and how do you guys help people simplifying like the complex stuff? How do you do so? Obviously you communicate, but what else can you do, and what kind of trick do you use?
Okay, in general, and this is the part of being a practitioner where everybody has their own way of understanding and doing it, right? I think there's a few concepts in complexity which we can use. One is consensus, and one is evidence. So, this whole thing about known knowns known unknowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns, okay? You can sort of use that sort of thinking and say, how much evidence do we have about what we know about the problem, okay? But even then that might not get you the full picture. So then you go to consensus and say, have some experts maybe, and have some other people that know about the problem, all right? And then together you can think of, brainstorm, have a bit of a workshop. If everybody can get the plan together, and the experts can agree on how it can be done, such as the birthday month and year thing, then yeah, maybe it's a complicated thing and you go with that. Otherwise, what you do, you can use Scrum as a bit of an experimentation method, okay? Set up a first sprint, and then, okay, we're going to explore these 5 areas to try and reduce our risk, just like Steph mentioned there. And set up so they're so small that you don't have they're safe to fail, right? If an experiment fails, you're not damaging people, you're not damaging your company, you're not damaging the success of your product. Really safe to fail experiments, and then after you do your first sprint, or maybe even 2 sprints, you'll start to see maybe some move to complicated, maybe some stay here, and then you can make decisions on whether or not, how you then manage those experiments. We're talking now about almost like you could think about it as a portfolio of projects, and then thinking or products, and then splitting it into, okay, let's
classifying it into
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Cool.
So when you're thinking of going from complex to complicated, is it the problem solving or is it the limitation and simplification? Which approach is that?
Now, how do we become
Yeah, I mean when
more simple
when you want to move from really complex situation, is it spending time during sprints to solve the problem, or is it simplify the rules and let's say give some limitations to make the problem simple? Which techniques do you follow?
It depends where your complexity lies, though. If the complexity lies with people, the different type of people that needs to work in a team, you will use different methods. But if it's a system, just that the system is complex, you will choose a different way as well. So it depends what's your context, or like what makes it complicated. Is it the system itself, or it's just because the team and the politics around it and stuff?
Don't forget Scrum, if we're talking about in the context of, a lot of people use Scrum in the complex domain, and after you have a few iterations, some things become easy, and the more you experiment, you realize, oh, this is the way to solve this problem. We've done it 2 or 3 or 4 times now, 5 sprints, and actually, okay, let's try and maybe now we can standardize this process, right? And moving towards a complicated domain, rather than trying to standardize a process up front. The first thing is say, let's go Scrum, let's try and do it within 2 weeks, do what we can to solve it. And then afterwards, once you know the solution is to do step 1, step 2, then maybe there's a little bit of a branch and you come back to do step 4. That's when maybe you can move more into the complicated, obvious states. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? We're supposed to have a book to give away. Where is the book? Where are those organizers? Jeez. Yeah. Okay.
You're in disorder now.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're going to give a book away to the person that asked the most interesting question. So you have 1 minute to think of something really interesting. Yes.
Have you ever found yourself in disorder?
I would say that's my daily life. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Disorder. Myself in disorder. I guess I find myself more in chaos, I guess, I think. Like, oh, I don't know what's going on, but then I can take an action and then I figure out, oh, okay, this is complex, or actually this is really simple. Disorder, I think the first moments of when there's something happening with a lot of people, like a public event, I think like somebody lighting a flare in the middle of a soccer crowd, and the people milling around and running, and me not knowing that somebody had lit a flare and thinking, what's going on here? The cops here. Is there a fight? Is something going on? And then seeing the flare, like, oh, okay, well then that's just a flare. That's just kind of soccer. That's kind of where I would say I've sort of felt myself in disorder.
Sure. In terms of the tactics for getting out of disorder, is it mostly then just wait and see until you get more information?
That is one way. I mean,
because with the other ones, you need to. It seems like action is the way to move out of it.
Yeah.
If disorder, it could just be observed.
Yeah.
Disorder can be from a lack of information, whereas the other ones you can. You have a bit of an idea of where you are.
Yeah.
So you don't know how it
because
reacts.
you don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And then you don't really know. And then sometimes you are waiting to see, and sometimes action is the only thing to do, right? But you wouldn't then maybe set up. Oh, let's set up some sprints and let's see what realm I'm in. In that case, you're probably more likely to tend towards action. And it depends on what problem you're trying to solve. If you're thinking about a business problem where your numbers are going down every month and you just don't know, maybe you're more likely to be in one of these areas rather than disorder. But when it comes to the social sort of stuff, I feel like that's when you're really in disorder, I guess. And then whether you take a wait and see approach or an act now approach. For instance, if you think you're in chaos and you act straight away and you make the wrong decision when actually you had time to experiment as a business, then perhaps that is where complexity can help you think, how quickly do I need to make this decision? Yeah. So I think disorder is a topic which we'll definitely have to dig into a little bit more.
Which is interesting as well. So my dad do totally different line of work. My dad do surgery. So sometimes they will have multiple surgeons operating on the same person because each one is really specialized in a certain field. So one time he was telling me, I think it can relate to disorder. So everyone, because there's only a limited window that you can, I don't know, bear all your guts out. So each person have a defined amount of time. This one you really can't sprint it through. They have planned everything before the surgery open and everyone have to do their own thing. Yeah, so the disorder came when something of course, you don't know what's happening inside and something went wrong, like, I don't know, an artery, just not unplanned. But what he told me is they were trained, you have to keep in your own station because it's a whole chain reaction. One person start focusing on their certain body part, the whole thing will be gone. So I think maybe it's one option, but it's like applied in a human body, right? For that specific scenario, each person have to keep doing their own thing and not, and other person has to come in to, I don't know, fix it. You have to maintain your bit or else dead. But that's the medical science, sort of how they deal with something that I totally understand how the body works. But that's how principles like that sometimes I think help me to apply in my projects as well. Something left wing comes in, you don't just panic and throw everything away. Sometimes you have just to stick to your own thing and get help. Yeah.
It's actually a really good analogy too. It made me think of, I was trained at one point, I worked in an office building, right, multiple floors, and they decided I was going to be a floor warden when the fire alarm goes off, right? Because fire alarm's kind of like, what you were saying, right? Disorder. Now, what do? I get this loud noise and, I'm supposed to go somewhere, right? But what do? You look for the person who seems to know what to do in that situation, right? So the key is to have those people prepared for disorder, right? So you know it can happen, right? So you anchor with a few people who are trained for an emergency, trained for the crisis, right? And then everybody else looks for them. He goes, all right, I don't know what's going on, I don't have information, everybody's running around, there's smoke, there's whatever, I don't know what to do, but, so we had these vests, right? So first training was the alarm goes off, what do? Grab your vest and put it on so people know to look for you because you've been trained on how to get them out of the building, right? So
actually this article touches upon, I think, the response to 9/11.
Right.
So I think, if I'm wrong, I apologize, I'm on video as well, so that's why I'm apologizing. No, I'm kidding. But this applies across so many different disciplines. So that's true. All right. Well, I think we're over time, and you guys probably need some coffee before our next session. So thank you very much for participating.